Hi, it's Brady Forrest here at Web2O Summit, and joining me right now is Senior VP of Bing and MSN, Yusuf Mehdi. How's it going, Yusuf?
Good, Brady. How are you?
Good. So we used to work together back when I was at Microsoft, and I was actually on MSN Search back before it was live or Bing, and a lot's changed since then. What's kind of the differences within the company?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple things are, in regards to Bing in particular, is that we have shifted from being kind of a simple standalone search service to now something that's becoming a core component of all the products that we do within the company. So you're starting to see Bing now in the Xbox and Kinect, so that you can voice, speak to your television.
Yep.
And Bing will bring up context-sensitive things to the television. It's baked into Windows Phone. So as you look up local maps and directions, Bing is there. And then we've advanced a lot the thinking of where Bing can go from more than just searching and finding, but to searching and taking action.
And where else do you see Bing going within Microsoft?
Well, I think a big thing increasingly is, as you know when you were there, one of the key things about search is that for the most part it's still pretty dumb. It's still kind of keyword matching to pages of URLs. And what's happened now is, on the one hand, you're getting much more digitization of all information, so that you really understand the page, you understand user intent, you understand context, and that lets you answer in a much more robust way and really pull relevant data up. And the second thing that's even more expansive is that in many ways we think the web has changed from just about pages and URLs to where you effectively have a full first-class digital society, where people are now first-class citizens in addition to web pages, maps and locations for every building, every road, and then you have all these services for gaming or for commerce or for entertainment and music. And what happens now is, if the world is in a sense now completely binary, what you can do is not just search and find, you can actually take action. You can actually sort of speak in or command it and get things back that you couldn't do before. And that, we think, will change profoundly how Bing and MSN
So
evolve.
Instead of kind of like being an answer machine or answer engine, I think is what, decision engine.
Yeah.
You want it to be more action-oriented? So actual tasks can be buy my tickets? Yeah,
absolutely. Let's use kind of an analogy. If search of, kind of yesterday, or as we know it today is, you walk into a library, and there's a reference librarian, and you say, hey, I've got a problem with my tennis elbow. Today's search would say, hey, go to this place in the library stacks and you'll find some books on your tennis elbow. What we think is that tomorrow, that experience will be, you'll go in and we'll say, hey, I've got a problem with tennis elbow. And that librarian, which is effectively, Bing, basically says, oh, hey, it's you, Brady, we know you. You've come before, you've looked on these things. These books are still over here, but by the way, here are the people that have had similar problems related to things that you have. You may want to go talk to them. We know doctors in your area. We know who's closest. If you'd like, we can book that appointment for you. We can also book a place for a physical therapist. And the ability for you to interact and discuss and have all that happen can now actually happen because everything is digital and you can actually wire it together, whereas you couldn't do that before.
A lot of what you're describing kind of sounds like Siri. And the capabilities of Siri, except not just tied to the phone.
Right.
Am I right in drawing those parallels?
Yeah, you're correct. So I think Siri has done a lot of great work to understand intent and voice and location to accomplish some of the scenario we just talked about. And I think it's totally in that vein. And I think there'll be much more richness where there's a lot of processing power up in the cloud, understanding that context. But then in addition, as we said, to go beyond, to actually let you take action. So within that context, book something, reserve something, buy something, preserve that context and say, oh, we know that you just bought or purchased something. Here are the related things, and you can move down that path.
What do you think the interface is going to be for your service? Do you think it's going to be speech? Do you think it's going to be the command line, Xbox, Windows Mobile?
Well,
and you guys have a lot of entry points.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's hard to know for sure what the future is, but we're investing in all of the areas you just described in some pretty compelling ways. So one of the things we're doing is we're definitely doing a big investment in voice. And you'll see the beginnings of that on the Kinect this holiday, where you'll be able to talk to the television and say pause, play, get me Harry Potter, and we'll get you the YouTube videos, we'll get you the games, we'll get you the actual movies, and you can buy and interact. Gestures for sure, so you can move and stroke around, whether it's on your phone for mapping, or it's on your tablet and you're looking to buy, because as you talk about when someone's looking to buy a product. They won't say, for example, green 4-door midsize, and then Rev, they'll say, they'll pull it up and they'll say, Corolla, show me more. And they'll say, oh, I like this one. Because it's hard to know what shade of green you want. And so gesture and eye, in a relationship is more powerful.
Yep.
And then we think applications, which are changing the web. That's the whole rave about these app stores, is that they're effectively really rich web pages. And so in some cases, sometimes like our iPad app that we wrote for Bing, super, super rich. People really love it. It's one of the best apps, I think, on there in terms of ratings. It's because you can actually just sort of touch and swipe and browse through it as opposed to type keywords and get back information.
And are you doing the same type of things for the Xbox with Kinect? And like, how are you guys playing around with the Kinect SDK?
Yeah. So we're doing a lot of really rich work that we announced but we haven't shown. So this is what's coming probably within about a month or two, is the ability to put that voice in. And what we're doing is we're working to put that in as a platform so that other content providers can take advantage of that voice. So in the first release, we'll have like 30 to 40 content providers, people like ESPN and Netflix, who'll put their content in, and they can use the voice and the context to understand when you're trying to voice in to search and get information.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, you guys have a partnership with Facebook, and you get a large portion of their data, which I think is a big advantage over Google.
Yeah.
How are you guys using that right now? Is that where you're finding the people?
Yeah, so the people part of that story that we talked about, we think does really occur in large part with our partnership with Facebook. And what we're doing there is we decided, let's work together as partners to bridge these two graphs, because you have a topical graph, which is the web, and then you have obviously the social graph. But what happens is there's all these really cool scenarios that can get unlocked if you can link them. So for example, today if I'm looking up for music and I say, hey, there's this great new band, Foster the People, that I really like, I don't know who else might like that band or if I've heard about it. If I look up and I say, oh, turns out Brady really likes this band, okay, maybe I'll go check that one out. And then I can say, well, hey, who else does Brady like? Or who else does this other person I haven't met, but likes the band like? And from that I can discover information. And you get this bridging of the two data sets. So part of what we're doing is with Facebook's like graph, as well as their people graph and Instant Connect, we can seamlessly connect in you and your friends so that every person who searches can have the power of their social graph improve their search results. So in the first versions, if you've liked things, we can put that to use. Now as Facebook is opening up their F8 platform and their open graph and the new verbs that they're sort of rolling out, we think over time we can do even richer things. Like I talked to you again, if search goes from search and find to search and do, and you want to buy or read or listen, and you can see verbs that your friends have done, you can imagine we can build some great new experiences in search.
So where do you draw the line between a social action on Bing and Facebook? Because they're your partner in a lot of ways, but they could be frenemies in others.
Yeah.
Like where do you draw that line?
Yeah. Well, I think at the moment we aren't sort of trying to draw any hard lines. We're kind of pioneering a lot of cool stuff together between us.
Yep.
I think the insight you have with that question is right on the mark, which is, in many cases, social apps tend to be more social than they are app. That's one of the things that Facebook sort of taught us when we were trying to design some of these new experiences. As I said, hey, give it some room to run. And sometimes what happens is it isn't about buying music, it's about conversing about music. Or in our case with search, it isn't just about search to accomplish. Sometimes it's about the social dialogue around the topic that you're researching. So, for example, if someone's researching to travel to Hawaii, they don't necessarily want to buy the ticket right away. They might want to find out, what are the good hotels? What place did you like? What kind of a trip is that? Is this good for kids? And so sometimes that social dynamic becomes social in itself, and search is a secondary activity. So we're staying pretty open-minded about how that will work out.
And shifting gears, but staying on the partnership topic, you guys are starting to work with Nokia, definitely on the mobile side, that's well known, but probably lesser known is that you're starting to use more of their mapping team, right?
Correct.
And their mapping product. What's the division there?
Yeah. So basically what we've done is we are betting very heavily with Nokia, as you said, on mapping as well. So they have a great mapping asset with Navtech, where they've mapped and driven a lot of the roads around the world. And we've been partnering with them already in a commercial way. Now with our strategic alliance, what we're doing is we're taking a bigger bet, which will make the maps for Bing even better, particularly outside the United States. We have built a bunch of great 3D assets.
I mean, you guys have made some amazing investments.
Yeah.
Tango early on, I forget some of the other.
Yeah, and we've done some aerial flying with cameras, Vexel camera maker.
That's right.
So we've done a bunch of 3D work with cameras. So what we're doing is we're bringing that value to bear with Nokia's Navtech assets to go and hopefully build the best mapping offering that's out there. So we're partnering together on them. They're going to certainly take the lead on a lot of the geodata data, the vectors, and we're going to figure out how we're going to work together on the 3D spatial imagery.
And where does Photosynth play into that? And Blaze, the creator of Photosynth, or one of the main guys behind Photosynth, is now working on Bing Maps primarily, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so Photosynth is one great way to kind of merge some of these things together to basically better describe the world by having users effectively generate their photos and then overlay them on this 3D digital platform. So Photosynth has been a really big technical hit. Blaze has been, as you said, at the core and is really driving a lot of forward thinking. So we have a lot of other great ideas that he and others are pioneering around how we bring Photosynth to work, but that will also ride on top of this partnership.
You know, so I got an iPhone over the weekend and I was playing with Siri. One of the first things I tried was Bing something. Yeah. And it brought up Bing and it asked me if I wanted to change my search engine. Yeah. And, you know, I thought it was pretty awesome that Apple would allow that to happen. And I was thinking, you guys have invested in the iPhone platform, which competes with your own. And it's just kind of a different company. Yeah. Or at least the perception. Yeah. How is that playing out within the company? How, is it recognized when Bing, an online service, invests in a platform, be it Apple's or Android or Google, Yeah. What's the feeling within the company about that? Yeah,
well, I think, going back, I've been in the company a long time, 19 plus years. We've always actually...
IE, right?
Yeah,
that was kind of
actually Windows before IE.
Windows before IE? Wow.
So, we've actually done a lot of cross-platform work. So as you know, Office runs fantastic on the Mac platform. Yep. When I was on IE, we wrote browser versions for the Mac, which for a period of time, I think were actually better than the Windows versions. And so it got a great sense of rivalry to improve. And I think in many ways we're doing the same thing here. So I think everyone in the company understands you have to go where your customers are. Yep. And if some people have chosen to use a different platform, well, we'd love them to use our platform. If they're on that platform, we want them to use Bing. So we're writing great Bing applications, on iPad, on other platforms, and sometimes it shows the way, which is pretty cool. Inspires us all to do better on our own platform. And other times we just learn a lot about the different dynamic of how people are using devices. So I think everyone takes it in stride. It's a course of doing business.
Cool. And just to kind of wrap up, what technology trend excites you most for the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Well, there's so many exciting things. I mean, that's like this conference. What's fantastic about this conference is that you stand up and you hear so many things. So local, what's exploding there with mobile devices, how we're moving to touch, this merger of the web with social coming to pages. But I think probably the thing I'm most exciting for me at the moment is this thing we talked about with voice. Yeah. Where I think the ability to talk to your devices, your television, your phone, your PC, and the way Bing will really connect into that. So we understand context, so that your speech becomes very natural. So, one of these sample demos we did in our labs, I was going through with the team, we were doing a search, they did a search for women's soccer, FIFA. Okay. So you say, tell me about the World Cup, FIFA.com, then I get in there and I say, hey, tell me about the matches. Yep. We already know what we're talking about. We're not paper matches, to light fires. We know it's about this. Show me USA versus Canada. Great. Show me the video. And suddenly what happens is computing sort of goes over to this thing where it suddenly feels very natural, where suddenly you are talking to the device. And in a way, the device is learning about you because it knows your intent and it knows the context you're in, as opposed to today where technology, it's all about you better learn the device. Yeah. Hey, how do I input? How do I set my location? Now it's the opposite. And so to me, the most exciting thing is where devices can become very natural, and voice in particular is a primary way to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much, Yusuf.
Thanks, Brady. Yeah, great to see you.